A Fox News host just warned that on day one of Donald Trump's presidency, the country can expect shock and awe to follow. Here is what Bret Baier just said this morning on Fox, quote, "I've been told that it's going to be shock and awe as far as executive orders and all of the list of things that are going to happen on January 20th, and that they're going to throw a lot in the first day that will have to be digested," end quote. So it sounds like Bret Baier was told maybe by someone inside the Trump administration that Donald Trump is planning to carry out a lot of unorthodox and unprecedented executive orders or policy proposals, which is rather frightening considering Donald Trump has already threatened to carry out mass deportations of migrants and separate families. He has threatened to annex Canada. He has threatened to invade Mexico, and he has threatened to take back the Panama Canal. Maybe it's one of those things, or it's something even crazier. Whatever it is, the fact that a Fox News anchor just told all of us to prepare for shock and awe, wowza.
You say all hell will be paid, that all hell must be paid if they don't release the hostages.
You know what that means, don't you? Well, do I have to define it for you? Look, all hell will break out. If those hostages aren't back, I don't want to hurt your negotiation. If they're not back by the time I get into office, all hell will break out in the Middle East. And it will not be good for Hamas, and it will not be good, frankly, for anyone. All hell will break out. I don't have to say anymore, but that's what it is.
My family's not coming to the inauguration on January 20 because I don't know what's going to happen. The reason I told them I don't want to come to inauguration is I don't know what's going to happen, and I'm going to be in warrior mode. So 20 years in the Navy, my colleague here, 20 years in the Navy. I know I'll be in warrior mode that day, more interested in protecting my family than watching an inauguration. So I said, I can't be a good daddy, husband, and host if I'm in warrior mode.
Can you assure the world that as you try to get control of these areas, you are not going to use military or economic coercion?
No.
And can you tell us a little bit about what your plan is? Are you going to negotiate a new treaty? Are you going to ask the Canadians to hold a vote? What is the strategy?
Yeah, I can't assure you, you're talking about Panama and Greenland. No, I can't assure you on either of those two. But I can say this, we need them for economic security. The Panama Canal was built for our military. I'm not going to commit to that now. It might be that you'll have to do something. Look, the Panama Canal is vital to our country. It's being operated by China. China. And we gave the Panama Canal to Panama. We didn't give it to China. And they've abused it. They've abused that gift.
When President Trump takes office next Monday, there is going to be shock and awe with executive orders, a blizzard of executive orders on the economy as well as on the border. So when we met with President Trump earlier this past week, what President Trump said the number one goal for the Senate needs to be to get his team in place. I've met with just about all of them. I support every one of these nominees. As the whip, my job is to make sure they get across the finish line, get on the job, and President Trump deserves a team early. Chuck Schumer said he wants to make fireworks at the hearings. If that happens, we are going to work around the clock, through the night, through weekends, to make sure we get that cabinet confirmed.
Donald Trump's plan will dramatically reduce taxes on people at the top, costing trillions of dollars over the next 10 years. Tariffs might offset a little bit of that, but again, who's paying those tariffs? It's middle-class families, it's low-income families. That's not a great economic approach for growth.
Great professor, but my uncle was a professor for years. I even talk about my uncle was a professor at MIT. My uncle was one of the top people at MIT. But I'm smarter than him. I'm smarter than anybody. In fact, every time I say I had an uncle who was a great professor at MIT for 35 years, who did a fantastic job in so many different ways academically. He was an academic genius.
Only Professor John Trump, who is with us today, did not stop there. Now, when you went to MIT, I believe your original intentions, if they may be so described, was to go into electric power types of applications. Is that right?
That's right. I had become interested in the design of electric power machinery. And he has some wild ideas. But I've checked a few of them and they stood up. For 6 weeks I decided they were plausible and reasonable, and I abandoned the design of electric machinery and began studying the insulation of high voltages in vacuum and the acceleration of heavy particles to high energies.
Okay, now it's my understanding that John G. Trump, Trump's uncle, abandoned his life ambitions, MIT, being a genius, to take these documents and patents from Tesla given to him by the FBI and see what he could do with them.
This is about much more than particle physics. It is a secret project.
Well, you clearly have shown a post-war fascist, a direct link to CERN, and that's documented, so it's not even like we need to theorize on that here. We also know that the Nazis were obsessed with just this kind of project. You know, they wanted the ultimate wonder weapon to dominate the planet.
Absolutely.
We went into John J. McCloy, who had a strong hand in getting CERN off the ground.
Let's go out with a bang. Let's have a laugh at your expense, shall we? Remember, they're just jokes. We're all going to die soon, and there's no sequel.
Nuclear is so powerful. My uncle explained that to me many, many years ago, the power, and that was 35 years ago. He would explain the power of what's going to happen, and he was right. Who would have thought?
What if Trump's uncle was right? What if he did develop time travel? Let's look at the books written in the 1800s and look at what seems to have come true. So let's add the books of Ingersoll Lockwood. The Baron Trump novels are children's novels written in 1893 and 1896 by American author and lawyer Ingersoll Lockwood, describing the future. Notice similarities between the image drawn in 1893 to the photo of Baron Trump. The book from 1893 is called Baron Trump's Marvelous Underground Journey and is about a boy named Baron Trump that found a secret portal and time travel. Yes, time travel, just like we're talking about. In the book, Baron Trump's mentor was called Don. In 1896, Ingersoll Lockwood wrote another one after Baron Trump called The Last President. Here's where it gets really weird. The book is about a very wealthy man who lived in New York on Fifth Avenue and runs for president but wasn't expected to win. Trump Tower is on Fifth Avenue in New York City. In the book, when he won, it surprised everyone. The people started rioting and protesting. Remember, this was written in 1800s. Now that's what I call a controlled election, a time machine from your Uncle Johnny. Late 1800s, books, Baron Trump and the Last President. Now remember, Tesla claimed to have a time machine and time travel. Now Ingersoll Lockwood lived in New York City at the same time as Tesla. And in the same building. So what if Ingersoll was Tesla's time traveler? What is real, what is now, and what is the future?
Future. Legend goes that Trump traveled back in time to become the ruler of America. These theories arise after someone discovered 2 books on the Office of Congress Library website. The books are called Baron Trump's Marvelous Underground Journey and 1900, or The Last President. Both were written in the 1890s by Ingersoll Lockwood. The book Baron Trump is about a young boy who finds a secret portal and time travels. Both books have eerie connections to Donald Trump and his family. First off, the book is called Baron Trump, and Baron Trump is the name of Donald Trump's son. Coincidence? I think not. But it doesn't stop there. At one point in the book, he was guided by a man named Don, aka Donald as in Donald Trump. And then in the book The Last President, it's about an unlikely presidential candidate that won the election. Sound familiar? Even freakier, the book talks about the Fifth Avenue Hotel. The address of the hotel in the book is the exact address where Trump's tower currently stands. It gets creepier. In the book, there is a character named Laugh Pence, who is the Secretary of Agriculture. Come on, like, hello, the Vice President is Mike Pence. There's just too many similarities between the books and Donald Trump's life. So people believe that this book was actually written about Trump and his family.
I appreciate what they're doing. And I'm not talking about Trump and his son Barron, y'all should be paying attention to Barron, because Barron really, truly is the magical one in this relationship. Don't get me wrong, Trump is waking the world up. He was a tool to wake the world up. You see, my brothers and sisters, they can't win. It doesn't matter what they do to him now. Doesn't matter. They can put him in prison for the rest of his life. That wave has already started. It doesn't matter. And there's a vacuum being created. And when the vacuum is created, there's a void. And that type of energy will be filled. You see, my brothers and sisters, what they don't understand, or maybe they do now, is that they are time travelers. There's a literal book about him being the last president. And this book was written in the 1800s. This ain't no joke. These people...
Did you know Trump's uncle was like this MIT professor, and he received Nikola Tesla's life's work?
Didn't he try to do like time travel or something?
Yeah, he's kind of like known for revolutionizing electricity and how it's used.
Oh, yeah.
But it was said that he might have invented time travel. And a weird thing with the Trumps is Donald's son, Barron Trump, is in these novels from the 1800s. It like looks like him, and it's like stories about him and his father Donald.
That's weird because Barron has a very distinguished look.
So they're saying Barron Trump's a time traveler, and Trump is too.
Napoleon, Alexander the Great, Donald Trump. We're all cut from the same cloth, and that cloth is very, very large.
It's not too big, is it?
No. Turn left on Trump Avenue.
Ever wonder why New Yorkers have such big mouths?
Go big or go home.
Because we eat big pizza, like the big New Yorker from Pizza Hut.
$9.99. They've got to be losing money on this.
President-elect Trump is off the hook in the New York hush money case. Judge Juan Merchan, just within the past couple of minutes, sentencing Trump to unconditional discharge. That means he won't face any jail time, any fines, any penalties of any kind in that case. The judge saying that this ruling on the sentencing is due to the president-elect's status as president-elect. He said Donald Trump, the ordinary citizen, and Donald Trump, the criminal defendant, would not be entitled to such considerable protections. Trump himself, speaking to the court today remotely, said this has been a political witch hunt in this case. He said it was done to damage my reputation so I would lose the election. The judge then going on to sentence him to unconditional discharge on all 34 counts of falsifying business records that he was sentenced to last year. And David, as the judge produced this sentence, he said to the president-elect, I wish you Godspeed for your second term in office. Back over to you guys.
We should have no income tax, no federal income tax, no state income tax, no tax on tips. You should be able to make a transaction without the government getting involved 5 times, reaching into your pocket and shaking you down like the mafia that it is. So if we need tax for certain things in civilization, we can have a small sales tax, and that would be more than enough to still pay for the roads, the police officers, and everything else. It would be more than enough. Yeah, we might not be able to afford all the wars overseas. Yeah, we might not be able to give Ukraine $200 billion and Israel $10 billion every time they come to Washington, D.C. Yeah, we might not be able to afford that. Oh, well, I think the American people will be able to get over that, quite frankly. So, no, I don't think it goes far enough. And this whole concept that I always hear these talking points from the left, oh, the rich don't pay their fair share. Well, what is the fair share? What is the fair share from the rich? They already pay the most in taxes by far. The rich pay 90% of the taxes, but this is still solved with a flat sales tax because Who's going to be taxed more on a flat sales tax? The rich. Who's going to be buying a yacht? The rich. Who's going to be buying a skyscraper? The rich. Who's going to be buying a jet? The rich. So it really knocks out all the problems. It takes care of the left wanting the rich to pay more taxes because they buy more things, spend more money, and it gets the government out of the middleman and the middle class and the lower classes' lives where we're not spending as much on taxes either. So it's a nice policy to get a talking point started. It's a nice policy that could end up determining the results of this election. But this is beyond party lines. We are taxed way too much. We need to cut taxes down to almost nothing. And by the way, for all these people that want more government services and all this thing, why don't they just volunteer to pay more taxes?
Mexico's really in trouble, a lot of trouble. Very dangerous place. And we're going to be announcing at a future date pretty soon. We're going to change, because we do most of the work there and it's ours. We're going to be changing, sort of the opposite of Biden, where he's closing everything up, essentially getting rid of $50 to $60 trillion worth of assets. We're going to be changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, which has a beautiful ring that covers a lot of territory. The Gulf of America, what a beautiful name. And it's appropriate. It's appropriate.
This is so scary. Donald Trump actually is a time traveler, and they say he pulled it off with the help of Nikola Tesla. This might sound crazy, but Nikola Tesla was an imaginative inventor in the early 1900s with a keen interest in time travel. According to reports, in 1895 he made a shocking discovery, where he discovered that time and space could be influenced by magnetic fields, after which he's quoted as saying he could see the past, present, and future all at the same time. When Tesla passed away in 1943, the FBI and the Office of Alien Property seized his research and handed it to a team for study, among whom was John G. Trump, Donald Trump's uncle and a well-respected electrical engineer at MIT. John G. Trump claimed Tesla's documents did not include any sensible workable principles, and he considered the documents useless, which may be trying to downplay what Tesla's work was truly capable of. In 1952, 9 years after Tesla's death, a U.S. court declared Sava Kasanovich, Nikola Tesla's nephew, the rightful heir to his uncle's estate. Tesla's files and other materials were sent to Serbia, where the nephew lived, and they now reside at the Nikola Tesla Museum. But while the FBI originally recorded about 80 trunks of documents among Tesla's work, only 60 trunks arrived in Serbia, meaning there's the possibility that someone kept the missing documents. John G. Trump receives 80 trunks of Tesla's confiscated documents, some of which have never been shown to the public, and only 60 are returned. This sounds pretty strange. Now, a lawyer and writer named Ingersoll Lockwood lived in New York City around the same time that Tesla did, and in the 1890s, Ingersoll Lockwood wrote a book called Baron Trump's Marvelous Underground Journey, which just so happens to share the same name as Donald Trump's son. The book is about an aristocrat boy named Baron, who lives in Trump Castle, who gets bored of his life of luxury and decides to go on an adventure. Baron comes into possession of a 15th century manuscript titled A World Within a World, written by a man named Don. The theory claims that this Don is a short name for Donald, and this was way before Donald Trump was born. Then, in 1896, Lockwood writes another book called 1900, or The Last President, in which an unlikely wealthy candidate becomes president of the United States. In the book, no one thought this person would win, so riots break out in New York City, claiming, and I quote, "The Fifth Avenue Hotel will be the first to feel the fury of the mob." Trump Tower happens to be on Fifth Avenue in New York City. In the book, the president also announces a Secretary of Agriculture named Pence, which is the same name as Trump's past vice president. Then, when he runs again in 1900, an uproar arises, and the Capitol is struck by dynamite and destroyed. A fiasco in the Capitol building following an uproar from a presidential election. Where have we seen that before? And finally, a quote near the end of the book reads, "As the dawn broke cold and gray, and its first dim light fell upon that shattered dome," referring to the Capitol building, relaxed, glorious even in its ruins, a single human eye filled a gleam of devilish joy, looked up at it long and steadily. A single human eye? Gleam of devilish joy? What exactly are they talking about here? In a book written over 120 years ago, almost like it knew what was going to happen in the future. During a time which Tesla was toying with time travel, whose documents were seized by the uncle of the person named in the book, and sort of outlines his political career. Remember, this is all just a theory.
No more IRS, no more Internal Revenue Services. Donald just announced that on January 20th, 2025 will be the birth date of the External Revenue Service. What does that mean? He's gonna, through tariffs, get enough money to come into the country where we as Americans no longer have to foot the bill, where we pay with our payroll taxes and then they just give all the money away to other countries. It's the birth date. Do you understand that? No more internal. It's now called External Revenue Services. Very, very strong and, in my opinion, dangerous thing to say. Just because we know the powers that be are not going to appreciate what's happening here with the IRS. And you're going to have to read through the lines to figure that one out. But this is great, super exciting. This is why we voted for this man. I'm going to do a video in Spanish too, so if you see that one, disregard it.
What's different is we are in a higher threat environment.
What is the difference in comparison to the last inauguration or previous inauguration?
Last inauguration? Yeah. I would say we have a slightly more robust security plan. We've been planning for this event for 12 months, along with our partners. It's an ever-changing threat environment, and so we stay flexible. If we see that, hey, we need to shore this particular checkpoint up, we do that. So what's different? We've learned. This is our 5th NSSE this year in the Washington field office. We've done 83 NSSEs. Each one we take a look at, and if there's areas where we need to improve, we do it. But what I can tell you is that we are 100% confident in the plan that we have put in place for this inauguration, that the public and our protectees will be safe.
So apparently Donald Trump has an exact replica of the Ark of the Covenant in his home in Florida. And when I say exact replica, I mean an exact replica. It took 2,700 hours of labor to make this thing. It has 6 pounds of gold plating it. What's blowing my mind about this is, what if it's the actual Ark of the Covenant? What if Donald Trump has the Ark of the Covenant sitting in his mansion? If you're confused, the Ark of the Covenant is like the most sacred religious relic to the Israelites. It's said to hold the 10 Commandments that Moses was given. Some people actually believe that it also has the Holy Grail in it, the chalice that Jesus drank out of in the Last Supper. Some people even think that this thing held a nuclear weapon because people who were not allowed around it, that didn't wear like the gold-plated stuff, suffered from their nails falling off, their hair falling off. They'd get like burns all over their skin. Some people even developed tumors all over them. Anyway, back to Donald Trump having this thing in his house, and why I'm questioning whether or not this thing is actually like the Ark of the Covenant. I'm not going to fully cover the whole thing, but apparently at one point the Knights Templar got their hands on the Ark of the Covenant, and from then on we're not sure what happened to it. Some people think that it was hidden in a mountain in Naboo, others think that it is in a church in Africa, while others believe that it was brought by the Knights Templar to America. I'm not going to dive too deep into that either because it's a lot. But the Knights Templar and its association with Freemasonry and the Illuminati and the founding fathers of our country. Trump is a very powerful man and probably associated with the Illuminati. So what if this man has the Ark of the Covenant sitting in his house in Florida?
It seems like every day now, Donald Trump is making it a little bit harder for the American people to hate him and pissing off the rest of the world. He's working on a ceasefire in Palestine. He's standing up for TikTok. And now the pièce de résistance, the establishment of what he is calling the External Revenue Service. I'm not kidding. To offset, apparently, the IRS, who has been taxing American citizens to death, and our government sending all that money to foreign countries, a situation that the globalists and the foreign countries really liked, and the politicians who are bought off by these foreign countries and the globalists really liked. Unfortunately, Trump seems to be throwing a giant wrench in that, and now, again, is pissing off the rest of the world, and probably going to ingratiate himself very, very deeply with all American people if he accomplishes it. I, for one, believe this is an incredible idea, and I really hope that the IRS is completely offset by the ERS. It makes complete sense. If we take the money from the ERS and we don't spend it on foreign wars and we don't ship it off to foreign countries, maybe we can use it here to do things like, I don't know, fill our reservoirs with water.
The theory that the Trumps are time travelers.
Grab me a DeLorean.
This connects to Nikola Tesla.
No way.
Nikola Tesla died, and within his hotel that he had 80 plus trunks of all his patents, his designs for different technologies, all this stuff. Guess who they sent first to go and collect the stuff?
I don't know.
John G. Trump. Donald Trump's uncle.
What?
Weird.
So the theory is that he took some of these trunks.
Oh no.
Oh no.
But Tesla said that he had figured out how to bend time. So
as one does.
The theory is Donald Trump's uncle took this, created a time machine.
Oh my gosh.
And then the weird connection is there was a book that came out in 1896, and it's called Baron Trump's Marvelous Underground Journey.
You're saying
do you know
it was actually Baron Trump?
Do you know what the book was about?
What?
Time travel?
Baron Trump time traveling.
No!
With the inauguration coming up next Monday, many of the security enhancements that went up around the Capitol for January 6th and for President Carter lying in state have remained in effect. The biggest threat, I think, for all of us remains the lone actor. Just in the past week, while President Carter was lying in state, we had two lone actors show up at the Capitol, one trying to bring in knives and a machete, another one who was trying to, what I believe, to disrupt the proceedings by setting their car on fire down in the Peace Circle area.
Trump coming out and calling for a rally with his supporters January 19th, one day before the inauguration. Why would you need to do that the day before you are supposedly being inaugurated the 47th president? He wants those people here in town for when it becomes even more evident than it already is that under 14th Amendment Section 3, he cannot be sworn in. He's done. He knows it. He's known it for a while. Only thing is, they're ready for you this time, dude.
I have a prediction for Inauguration Day. With the passing of Jimmy Carter, all of the flags are going to be at half-mast for 30 days. That's just standard, which means the flags will be at half-mast on Inauguration Day. Trump is going to be so mad. His supporters are going to be like, why, man?
my family's not coming to the inauguration on January 20 because I don't know what's going to happen. And the reason I told them I don't want to come to inauguration is I don't know what's going to happen, and I'm going to be in warrior mode. So 20 years in the Navy, my colleague here, 20 years in the Navy. I know I'll be in warrior mode that day, more interested in protecting my family than watching an inauguration. So I said, I can't be a good daddy, husband, and host if I'm in warrior mode.
Breaking news for you now.
So I don't believe you guys understand how big of a day January 20th will be in this country. That is Inauguration Day. But there's something a little bit more stranger that maybe you're not paying attention to it. January 20th will be the beginning of the squeeze of migrants for them to leave the country. What do I mean? Well, on that day, funding will stop. Any type of, things put in place to accommodate migrants will be demolished. So if you're in a city or a state that has a lot of migrants in it right now, understand that these individuals will spill out to the streets when their benefits are no longer valid. So you have states like Missouri who introduced a bill that would give ordinary citizens $1,000 per migrant that they snitch on, and it leads to them being apprehended. So think about that. You got states that are offering money for you to help them find illegals. And then on January 20th, they're going to be out on the streets. So if that's not a roundup, I don't know what a roundup is, but January 20th will be very, very interesting.
Are you also considering military force to annex and acquire Canada?
No, economic force. Because Canada and the United States, that would really be something. You get rid of that artificially drawn line, and you take a look at what that looks like, and it would also be much better for national security. Don't forget, we basically protect Canada. I love the Canadian people. They're great. But we're spending hundreds of billions a year to protect it. We lose in trade deficits. We're losing massive. We don't need their cars. You know, they make 20% of our cars. We don't need that. I'd rather make them in Detroit. We don't need their lumber. We have massive fields of lumber. We don't need anything. So why are we losing $200 billion a year and more to protect Canada? And I said that to, as I called him, Governor Trudeau. I said, listen, what would happen if we didn't subsidize you? They should be a state. That's why I told Trudeau when he came down. I said, what would happen if we didn't do it? He said Canada would dissolve. Canada wouldn't be able to function if we didn't take their 20% of our car market. We don't need their cars, and we don't need the other products. We don't need their milk. We got a lot of milk. So I said to him, well, why are we doing it? He said, I don't really know. He was unable to answer the question, but I can answer it. We're doing it because of habit, and we're doing it because we like our neighbors, and we've been good neighbors. But we can't do it forever.
Donald Trump will become the first convicted felon to be sworn in as U.S. president after he was sentenced in his hush money case. The president-elect was sentenced to unconditional discharge in the case involving adult film star Stormy Daniels. That means he won't receive any jail time and will avoid having to pay a hefty fine or probation. The move does mean he'll be the first American president to take the White House as a convicted felon when he's sworn in later this month.
The inauguration schedule. I have it right here. There's all kinds of stuff. Saturday, January 18th, there's going to be weekend festivities, reception dinner, fireworks at his golf club. Monday, January 20th, Inauguration Day, service at St. John's, sworn in at noon. There's going to be a lot of musicians and whatnot, all, which really pisses me off, and we're going to talk about them, some of them. I'm sure they charge an exorbitant fee, which is, I think, is terrible. The garbage truck is going to be in the Trump parade. That's pretty cool. Franklin Graham will speak at the inauguration. Kamala Harris snubs J.D. Vance, wouldn't give him a tour of his house. I'm sure J.D. doesn't care. Jason Aldean, Rascal Flatts, Carrie Underwood, Lee Greenwood, all going to be singing. Kid Rock will all be singing at the inauguration. Also, the Village People. Trump's fave.
Which musicians are performing at Trump's inauguration? Country singer Carrie Underwood will be performing America the Beautiful at the inauguration before Trump takes the oath of office. Village People, the group behind the YMCA, which became a staple during Trump's rallies, will be reportedly performing at multiple inauguration events. According to reports, multiple musical performances are expected at the inaugurational ball, including Jason Aldean and Rascal Flatts. Meanwhile, at the Victory Rally on Sunday, Kid Rock and Billy Ray Cyrus are expected to perform. Read more at Forbes.com.
When President Trump takes office next Monday, there is going to be shock and awe with executive orders, a blizzard of executive orders on the economy as well as on the border. So when we met with President Trump earlier this past week, what President Trump said the number one goal for the Senate needs to be to get his team in place. I've met with just about all of them. I support every one of these nominees. As the whip, my job is to make sure they get across the finish line, get on the job, and President Trump deserves a team early. Chuck Schumer said he wants to make fireworks at the hearings. If that happens, we are going to work around the clock, through the night, through weekends, to make sure we get that cabinet confirmed.